And I went to college at St. John's in Annapolis, graduating in 1932. Then I did my doctorate work at Princeton under H.S. Taylor. I finished that in 1935 and stayed an extra year as a postdoctoral fellow, which in those happy days, a postdoctoral fellow was an independent person rather than a slave. I taught for 3 years at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, from 1936 to 1939. I married Elise Frank from Hartford, came to Northwestern in the fall of 1939, and they've never been able to get rid of me. So I'm still here.
How would you describe Sir Hugh Taylor?
Well, Taylor, of course, was... First, he was a very busy man. He had usually lots of things going on. But nevertheless, he came to the laboratory every day once. And the standard graduate student view was that if you could show him a graph, he would be happy. So one should always try to have a graph of the last day's results.
Who were some of the people that were at Princeton at the time you were there?
Well, John Turkovich was a year ahead of me. Thank you for your question. John Turkovich was a year ahead of me. Kiyoshi Morikawa worked for a couple of years at the next desk. He was over on a sort of postdoctoral fellowship, although he hadn't a doctor's degree at that point. He worked for the South Manchurian Railway. And he was the person who did the first isotopic exchange between deuterium and alkanes, methane, ethane, and propane reacting on nickel catalyst. There was a German postdoc who was on the other side of me for a year named H.W. Kohlschutter. Same room at one point there was a man generally called Sunshine Bearer. Smith was there. I'm thinking of the ones in the room. That was it, I think.
Now, this must have been an awfully large room.
It was a big room. I was in the room a little while ago, and I could still see one trace of my activity. I was measuring the absorption of carbon monoxide at that point. I started off with carbon monoxide absorption, hydrogen absorption on zinc oxide. These didn't lead to anything particularly interesting, so Taylor got me to change to measuring hydrogen chemisorption on chromium. But in the carbon monoxide period, I was generating carbon monoxide by a sort of Kip generator in which you dripped formic acid into hot concentrated sulfuric acid, decomposing to water and carbon monoxide. Okay, what do I do with the carbon monoxide? There was no hood anywhere near. So I took a cork borer, carborundum powder, and carefully drilled a hole, small hole in the window pane, and put a tube out. Taylor came around, looked at it, and said, "Who did this?" "I did, sir." And he looked at it. He never said anything more. When I wasn't using it, I just put a cork in it. And some years ago, I happened to be in the lab, and the cork was, and the hole was still there. Probably the only trace of my period.
Now, this was Taylor's entire group at that time?
No, he had other people. When I first came there, P.W. Selwood was there as a postdoctoral fellow. He was running a small factory which made deuterium by electrolysis, selective electrolysis of water.